Good morning. Haiti Oropesa with Florida You Judge. And this morning we have, as a special guest, Hillsborough County Judge Michael Scionti. Hosts Stephanie Pointer and Daryl Heisch. They're going to be interviewing Judge Scionti about Veterans Court in Hillsborough County. He's going to be discussing Veterans Court and what that's all about. And so within a few minutes, we're going to have them on. But first, I wanted to make a quick announcement for two great attorneys in the Hillsborough County, Tampa Bay area. Attorneys Sheridan and Bradshaw, they're going to have a special event on December 9th, 2023 at Signature Punch Training Center, 2315 East 3rd Avenue, Tampa, Florida, 33605. Doors open at 7:30 p.m. And it's a charity boxing exhibition, and the special cause is a toy drive. Again, attorneys Bradshaw and attorneys Sheridan, they're going to have a boxing exhibition for a very special cause toy drive. So if you're interested, this is a really good cause, and it sounds like a really exciting event. With no further ado, we will have Judge Michael Scionti, Stephanie Pointer, and Daryl Heisch in a second.
Hello. What's going on, everyone? How's everyone doing? Welcome to Florida You Judge. Judge Scionti, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you, and to Stephanie and Haiti for inviting me on your program. And obviously giving me an opportunity to bring greater awareness to mental health issues, substance use disorders, that are impacting veterans.
Yes, sir. Hey, Stephanie, how are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well.
Good morning, Judge Scionti. I'm going to say it right. Can you give us like the basic Michael or the basic Judge Scionti, and tell us a little bit about yourself so we know why you're maybe why you're here, but who you are as a person.
Sure. So to all your listeners and viewers, good morning. I'm Judge Michael Scionti. I'm a circuit court judge here in the 13th Judicial Circuit in Hillsborough County. I've been a judge since 2015. I'm also a colonel in the United States Army Reserve. I'm a commander of the 8th Legal Operations Detachment. Served multiple tours of duty over in Iraq and Afghanistan over the last 24 years. Having served our country, our community, both in and out of the courtroom, on and off the battlefield, and throughout all branches of government, it's that breadth and depth of legal experience that I rely upon in overseeing our Veterans Treatment Court. So that's just a little bit about who I am and what I try to accomplish.
So how'd you grab a passion? I mean, is this a passion thing, or is this something you were appointed to? I mean, did someone say, "Hey, we want Mike over in the Veteran Treatment Court"? How did this come to pass?
Well, so great question. It's amazing how a single idea can move mountains, as the expression goes. And frankly, in 2008, it was a county court judge based in Buffalo, New York, Judge Russell, who noticed a trend among returning veterans, veterans who are returning from the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, who found themselves in the criminal justice system. Many were homeless. Most struggled with addictions and mental health issues. And he wanted to do something about it. And he started the Veterans Treatment Court in 2008 up in Buffalo. And with that, there are veteran treatment courts across the entire country. All 50 states are represented, over 500 veteran treatment courts. But in our Veterans Treatment Court here in Hillsborough County, we're one of the largest, not only in the country, but it's reflective of that nationwide movement of courts that were designated to assist veterans struggling with those mental health issues and drug addictions. Our court started in 2013, so this year, October, marked the 10th year anniversary of our Veterans Treatment Court. It was started by Judge Weiss, a colleague of mine, both in the Army and on the bench. And then Judge Holder, another colleague, he took it over from Judge Weiss a year later, oversaw the program for a couple of years. And 2017 is when I took over the program. So I've been overseeing it for the last 7 years. So it's a labor of love, for all of us that involve ourselves in Veterans Treatment Court. Of course, as a veteran myself of Iraq, Afghanistan, I've walked in the boots of many of the veterans who appear in front of me. So we just do the best we can to try to help them overcome the problems that they're facing.
Awesome.
If somebody has a friend or a loved one who wants to, who has gotten themselves into trouble and they are interested in rehabilitation versus going through the regular legal system, how would they get themselves involved with Veterans Treatment Court as part of the process?
So with regard to the eligibility requirements, it's important to note that in 2021, the law changed. The Florida legislature now, based on the law change, veterans who wish to come into our program must apply through the state attorney's office. So prior to 2021, the court made the determination. And when we're talking about eligibility requirements, veterans at that time had to have been discharged with an honorable discharge or a general discharge under honorable conditions. But in 2001, when the law changed, it opened the eligibility requirements. So any characterization of service. So whether you were dishonorably discharged, received an OTH, as we call it, other than honorable, you are eligible to participate. But the state attorney's office makes that determination. It's a two-step process. First, whether or not, one, you're eligible, and then two, whether or not, based on the balance of public safety, the state attorney's office determines whether they're going to admit you into the program. I, as the presiding judge, make the determinations as to whether you're going to advance in a 5-phase program and ultimately whether or not you are going to be successfully graduated from that program. But your military service, so that's a requirement. You have to have had served in our armed forces, any branch. You can also have been a Department of Defense contractor. So the law kind of expanded the aperture for those who serve in combat zones and serve as a Department of Defense contractor. You have to have been alleged to have committed a qualifying offense, whether it's a felony or a misdemeanor. The statute does not allow for aggravated offenses of very serious natures, murders, terrorist acts, any aggravated assault or aggravated battery. Those are not permitted to come into the program. And you have to suffer from a military service-related mental health condition or substance use disorder. So it's those statutory criteria that the state of Florida uses, state attorney's office uses to determine eligibility.
So, Judge, when we right now, and I recently retired from the military, but a lot of service members who are applying for either PTSD or something like that, they're getting either an anxiety, depression disorder rating. With that being said, there are also a large population of veterans who have not been diagnosed and getting the proper or getting a diagnostics. How then do they get? What is it that they need to prove to show that they're that person in order to get served, or for the state's attorney's office to qualify them?
Daryl, what a great question that is, because oftentimes drug addictions, military sexual trauma, other forms of trauma are not documented. In fact, we oftentimes deal with service members who have years of trauma dating back to the Vietnam era, and that wasn't documented. So they do the best they can, because it's not a requirement that the Veterans Administration has established a service-connected condition, whether it's a disability or a mental health condition, a physical disability, a drug addiction, or a mental health condition. That's not a requirement. That's helpful for the state attorney's office in making that determination, as it was helpful for me as the judge that presided over it when the law allowed for me to make those determinations. So at the time, I conducted evidentiary hearings, took sworn testimony. Oftentimes, a veteran could present part of the record with their military file. Just to use anecdotally as an example, a soldier or sailor had recalled being committed to a hospital undergoing a mental breakdown. I think it was Jacksonville Naval Air Station, and was able to reconstruct some of the evidence of his admission at that time. It was several years ago, and then a diagnosis at that time, and I allowed for that evidence to come in. And I would imagine the state attorney's office does their due diligence, especially when information isn't well documented. Oftentimes, for example, MST, military sexual trauma, is never even documented at all. So I took the position of, I'm not going to subject these veterans to re-victimization. We here in our Veterans Treatment Court, we're a court of recovery and of rehabilitation, not of punishment and incarceration. So, we adopt that non-punitive problem-solving approach. And when veterans present with a condition, if it can't be documented, it doesn't, I don't believe that inhibits the court or the state attorney's office from allowing those veterans into our program.
That's very good. That is very good to even know that, because again, just when you mentioned, as I have mentioned, just the word veteran treatment court to people, they're like, what is that? And so it's good to know that, you're not there to be a punitive. You're here to help people recover in their different situations. So that's a great point to have, to make sure it's out there for our viewers.
Yeah, and Darryl, if I may, we try to create this safe therapeutic environment, which is, quite frankly, very unheard of in a criminal courtroom, right? I think most people are familiar with courtrooms. They're always, portrayed as criminal courtrooms. And someone's accused of a crime, the prosecutor's office is looking to put somebody in prison, and there's a jury that makes a decision as to guilt or innocence, and a judge like me sentences somebody to jail, prison, or sometimes far worse. But in our courtroom, nothing could be further from that perspective. As I pointed out, we don't punish, we don't incarcerate. I try to break down those traditional barriers that individuals are accustomed to in criminal courtrooms. I'm trying to encourage honesty, trying to build trust, and create the safe therapeutic environment for our veterans so they'll be honest about what they struggle with.
So is there a funnel you get with the state's attorney's office? Do they have a questionnaire that they, you go through to find out once they put you and you've been arrested for, laundering, and do they ask you these questions and then that's how it's determined?
So it really starts with the sheriff's office. Right after somebody is arrested, Sheriff Chronister has established a process in his jail system by which he identifies veterans from the moment they're brought into his facility. He has a veterans pod where veterans are transferred amongst they are housed amongst each other. The public defender's office, Ms. Julianne Holt, who has been so committed to this program, has a case manager who goes to the jail every day to identify veterans with the hope of identifying who would potentially be eligible, whether it's through a private attorney or through the public defender's office. I only mentioned the public defender's office. They handle about 80% of the veterans who come through our program and have so over the last 10 years. So there's no one really better at understanding that process than the public defender's office and the attorneys that Ms. Holt has assigned. But they work to identify veterans, develop that packet for that application packet. They used to submit it to the court. Now they submit it to the state attorney's office. And the state attorney's office, Ms. Lopez, as well as Ms. Holt, they really have dedicated their best to, as far as their attorneys and their support staff, to working collaboratively to help build these packets for the veterans, striking the balance between public safety and eligibility, and then we bring those veterans into the program. So my point is, it's a community effort. It starts with the sheriff, and then the public defender's office working collaboratively with the state attorney's office, and then they come into our program. And of course, we have this community network. The VA, the Veterans Administration, they have VJOs, Veteran Justice Outreach Coordinators, that are assigned to our courtroom, giving the court, myself, real-time information between clinicians, medical providers that are assisting the veterans with the court as we staff these cases. And of course, we have our mentors, and we can talk about that as well. They're a key component to the success of the program. But I'll turn it back over to you.
Stephanie?
Daryl went wild there on me. I have to, full disclosure here, I have a senior mentor who lives in my house, who has been participating in the program for a couple years now, and he absolutely loves it. So I have kind of like the backtrack on it. One of the, can you talk for just a second? And this is kind of me standing back and looking at the big picture. A lot of times, and you are an elected official, a lot of times people have questions about who to vote for and who not to vote for. Is that me making all that racket? But one of the questions that I have is, can you tell me what your other responsibilities are as a judge, not just in the VTC?
Well, as a judge, we have an obligation to advance the rule of law. So not just presiding over cases in court, but being an active participant in our local bar, being an active participant in the education of folks about the law, trying to inspire young people. Just yesterday was national. We go to the schools and have a chance to showcase what you do as a professional. But as I shared earlier, balancing my judicial duties, I balance my service to our country as a soldier, as a commander. I've been doing that for now 24 years. I'm going to do it as long as I can until they kick me out. So that eats up a lot of my bandwidth. So during the week, doing all my judicial duties, at night, attending to my soldiers and their needs, and over the weekends. So I strike a nice balance between both. I've been doing it for many, many years. So I hope that answers your question, but, just trying to advance the rule of law in many different ways, whether as a judge or as a soldier.
Okay. So we have attorney Josh Montero. He's in the waiting room. He's going to jump in on the conversation here. I feel like I'm being double teamed. I got the Army all over me, and I'm the Navy. But we'll make it do what it do. Hey, Josh, welcome.
Now wait, I'm an Army spouse.
And you're an Army.
Oh, look at that, even better.
Oh my goodness. Hey, Josh, welcome to the call, to the conversation. How are you today?
Good morning, Brother Darren. Good morning, Judge Scionti. I just heard the tail end of Judge Scionti's explanation of how he does the reserves and does his job. And I tell you, as a person who did the same thing for 29 years, I'm even more amazed by him, because it's hard enough to try to be an attorney and balance the reserve, but to be a judge and to do vet corps and still be a commander, I was always amazed when I walked into his courtroom that he was able to balance all of those. A great fellow Army soldier, officer, excuse me, but just happy to be on, and good morning to all.
Well, John, you yourself has done some work in the, within the criminal aspect of things, but you also have served as helping out service members in the Corps. In the Army as well. Am I correct?
Yeah. You said I've also served and helped out people in the reserves. You said.
Well, yeah, because you're a JAG as well in the reserve active duty component as well, correct?
Actually, no. I enjoyed blowing stuff up too much. I'm an old Bradley commander, and when they tried to make me jump over the JAG, I declined. I regret it a little bit because I probably would have had my student loans paid off, but I like to stay in the combat world. And as I progressed from active duty to reserves, I went into an OCT position, which is an observer controller trainer. So I would train soldiers and units that were deploying overseas.
Okay, understood. So the reason why I asked that is I want to try to tie a parallel between yourself and Judge Scionti. What his There's a very bad echo and noise. Do you guys hear that?
I do not.
Okay, I hear it. But okay, but with that being said, I want to tie Judge Scionti, what you see in your courtroom as it relate to Attorney Josh and all that he's doing in the marketplace. And Josh, do you see where um, the people you're serving and helping out, do you encounter many veterans that you say, hey, they need to be over in Judge Scionti's courtroom?
Oh, all the time. And the funny thing is I have to remind them with Judge Scionti, you're about to walk into a courtroom that's run very much like a military unit. So keep your bearings. And I'll tell a funny story. I was in front of Judge Scionti with another Army soldier who was there for some help for services in his courtroom. And I'm talking to Judge Scionti and I'm looking directly at him. And Judge Scionti stops and he says, Mr. Montero, I need you to go outside with your client and tell him to get his bearings together. And I look in shock. I'm like, what did you do? And the client did not agree with something that Judge Scionti did. And he kind of huffed and puffed. And I was like, oh my God. Like I told you before we came in here, military bearings at all times. So I went out, I talked to him, I got him straight. From then on, it was yes, sir, no, sir, yes, your honor, no, your honor. But it's great because, you know, we go through our trials and tribulations in the military. And then the reason why we have vet court is because we're trying to help soldiers who are going through these trials and tribulations and give them a second chance, right? Because I have soldiers in there that if it weren't for vet court, they would not be able to get their cases dismissed and their lives would be ruined. So Judge Scionti puts that structure back into them and reminds them, if you continue to walk that path that you did in the military, you won't have these problems. So it's a great environment. Anytime I have an opportunity to have a soldier to go in there, even if it's not my client, any of the clients that come to my firm who are vets, I will jump on the case and make sure I go to vet court. Just to see Judge Scionti, just to be around my fellow soldiers, to help that fellow serviceman get through whatever their trials and tribulations are.
Daryl, if I may, because Josh hit it right on the head. It's not so much about that, me trying to be, I try not to be too hard on folks. I always am reflective of bringing forth grace and mercy. But these veterans found themselves on a self-destructive path. Okay, they suffer from isolation, depression, detachment. Many of them feel hopeless. They explore the suicidal ideations. They're unemployed. Some of them are homeless. They have anger. It manifests itself either at home or with children or with colleagues. They struggle with addiction. They're good people at their heart, but the addiction takes over and it leads to that criminal mindset and behavior. And what we try to do is stop them before the incarceration. So reminding them that, there is hope, reminding them of that service, as Josh was pointing out, that they held themselves accountable when they were in uniform. They adhered to the Army, the military's core values of selfless service, of duty, of respect, of integrity. Somewhere along the line, they forgot about it. And so we try to help remind them. And as Stephanie can certainly share, just because of her husband and his commitment to our program as a mentor, that veteran mentor relationship is at the heart of the Veterans Treatment Court and its success. And why is that? Because of that military relationship. What we all learned, the discipline, the personal responsibility. It's a common bond that was made during military service, and the court is able to expand its reach through the mentors and through the structure. So when you come into this courtroom, as Josh pointed out, it's run similar. There's standards and there are accountability, because eventually I need them to hold themselves accountable. And so it starts from day one.
So you mentioned the mentor program a couple of times, and Stephanie's husband is actively engaged with it. Can you share what that program does for our service members?
Well, Stephanie, if you want to, or I certainly can, but
there's I see it from the sidelines because I'm here when the phone calls are made, and sometimes I listen to the meetings, not often anymore, but in the beginning I did. But most often and there is a very fine line for mentors. Mentors are not picking you up and taking you to doctor's appointments. They are talking to you about what the choices are that you have, and what's going to be the best way forward. And having discussions, and it's nice because the mentor core, I guess, would be that they are there to be a sounding board in many cases, and somebody who doesn't have a dog in that hunt. When I think that's one of the biggest things they do. They do support for they'll feed folks this week for Thanksgiving who need it, that kind of thing. But it's a very collegial group that works together to support them.
So Daryl, if I may, just to build upon what Stephanie pointed out, our VTC Mentor Corps consists of 7 task force teams representing all branches of the military service and all ranks. Collectively, I think we have about 60% are combat veterans dating back from the Vietnam War through the Gulf War, through the Iraq War and Afghanistan War. As I pointed out earlier, the VTC is really at its heart. We're trying to build trust, build relationships, and for a VTC judge, focusing on developing a veteran's skills, life-sustaining skills, better practices, and responsibilities. They are promoted best by, and effectively by his or her mentor. As Stephanie pointed out, many of our mentors are lawyers, some may even be doctors, accountants. They have all these different disciplines, but that's not their role in VTC. Some are former drill sergeants, but they're not drill sergeants in our mentor corps. They're battle buddies, they're shipmates, they're folks that keep veterans on track in between the court dates, reminding them of their focus for self-development, commitment to their sobriety, commitment to their treatment plan. They also bring a network through Colonel DJ Reyes, who I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize Colonel Reyes, who is the coordinator who started the Mentor Corps here in Hillsborough County 10 years ago and has grown it to now almost 100 mentors. So they have a web or a network of contacts that no court can accomplish. They're focused on job skills, employment, housing stability, food insecurity, educational requirements. Those are things that no problem-solving court can truly address. So that they are really at the heart of the success of this program. And I would also add that not every veterans treatment court in the state of Florida or throughout the country has a mentor corps. They're all volunteers. And Colonel Reyes and many others are trying to expand this model problem-solving court, which we have here in Hillsborough County, throughout all of the counties in the state of Florida and throughout the state of Florida, or throughout the country. So I'd also want to point out very quickly that in 2019, the United States Congress passed unanimously the Veterans Treatment Court Coordination Act of 2019, and it provided upwards of $80 million to help establish veteran treatment courts throughout the country. And they used Hillsborough County or our veteran treatment court as the model problem-solving court. So we're very proud of that. Back over to you, Daryl.
That's very good. So if I started a case in Hillsborough County Veteran Treatment Court, can I transfer that over to Hernandez or any of the other counties? Can I transfer my case over to those? And if how do I go about doing that?
That's another great question. So the answer to your question is yes, you are permitted. Oftentimes veterans relocate or they were from another county and happen to get in trouble in Hillsborough County. It's not frequent, but the court certainly allows for someone to reside, let's just say, in Hernando County, and if they need to participate in programs here in Hillsborough County because the services are provided for, such as drug screening, if they're out of county, they may have to absorb those costs. The state attorney's office can work with other state attorney's offices throughout the state to provide supervision. And now, because that law in 2021, the state law, not the federal law, but the state law that expanded the reach of Veterans Treatment Court, allowed for the creation or mandated the creation of veteran treatment courts throughout every circuit in the state. So now, because it wasn't the case before, now if somebody wants to move to Orlando, move down to Miami, it's possible to have that case transferred so that supervision can be conducted by the court in the other circuit.
Daryl, I would say, carry on that, having been part of the vet court since before Judge Scionti, it used to be Judge Holder, who was a Air Force vet, and I was a public defender when I first started it in Hillsborough. I moved over to be a public defender in Pasco. I've had clients that say, hey, I want to transfer my vet court from Hillsborough to another county close by, and I always caution against it because the one in Hillsborough is stages and notches above all the other ones here around us. It's sad, but they put together something really, really good in Hillsborough that the other counties are trying to get close to and haven't yet. And I hope that they do, but it's just different in Hillsborough. And if Daryl, if you haven't been there yet, just stop by one day and you'll get in that room, and it's just you feel like you're back in the military. Just the support everybody has there. And every once in a while with Judge Scionti, I get him as he's graduating folks. I say this person's in the Marines, this person, and he'll get to the Army guy, and I'm like, oh, and he'll look back and he'll be like, oh, and then that just set it off. From that moment on, all the Navy guys will do whatever y'all do. I don't know, some craziness. And the Marines do this, but it's the camaraderie. When you come in there and you see all those mentors on one side, and you see so it's such great camaraderie that I get proud every time I walk in there, and not all the other ones are doing it like that yet.
And if I can just build on that just briefly, it is that camaraderie. So when Josh points out that we treat it like a military environment, well, it's to inspire, it's to motivate our veterans to want to do better. One of the many best practices we've incorporated is having each veteran support his or her brother or sister in arms. So they're in court, and I'm coming to you, live from inside this courtroom. But I would encourage you, Daryl, and others, even your listening and viewing audience, to come visit our courtroom, because we can spend an hour talking about it, but until you actually see the energy, the love, the support in this courtroom, that one experience will speak volumes as to how we truly are saving lives. And oftentimes we have veterans who come back serving as mentors. We have veterans who just come back and visit. Oftentimes they're sitting in the back of the courtroom. I'll recognize them. They just like being in our courtroom because of the safe environment, the friendly collegiality that we've established here.
It's the second Friday of the month. Is that when it is?
It's every third Friday. We have court every week. So
okay.
I'm glad you brought that up for your listening and viewing audience. Every week we have Veterans Treatment Court. And that's purposeful so that I can act upon the needs of veterans. We as a team can service these veterans every week, but graduations and a fuller docket occurs on Friday on the third week.
So are you listening to you? And I've been a Navy counselor, and I used to do the TAP training, transitioning people to the civilian world. It sounds like to me you need to be part of TAPS. It's because again, service members don't know what they don't know when they're making that transition. And what will happen with the population of those service members is someone may get in trouble. And they don't know about what you have to offer. They don't know that when they show up at Hillsborough County Jail and with Sheriff Cronister has this available to them. So what they may do is just not even mention that they are a veteran and then they end up going through the other door. So I would suggest that someone begins to look into how do you become part of the TAP transition program over at McGill at least.
Hey, that's a wonderful idea, and I'd be more than happy to participate or provide literature to help, to be disseminated. This program, Florida You Judge, this is part of what we do to get the message out. That's why I started off by thanking all of you for inviting me on the program to give the opportunity to your listening audience. And it's a perishable, it's perishable information because you may forget about it, or someone like you pointed out, Daryl, has no idea. And unless we're on radio programs, television programs, going out and speaking, I try to speak to our community as often as I can. The TAPS program is just another opportunity to get the message out. We have several. Well, I should say several. We have many that are currently on active duty that are going through our program. Stationed, either they're in the reserves or they're active duty over on MacDill Air Force Base in one capacity or another. So it wouldn't hurt, certainly, to be a part of that TAPS dissemination of information.
I will tell you, though, Daryl, to give kudos to the Hillsborough Public Defender's Office, whenever you come through, so when you're arrested, a lot of people have that misconception that you're going to sit for 48 hours. That's just TV. Within 24 hours, you have to see a judge. And so if you're one of the unfortunate ones that didn't bond out right away, you're going to have to go in front of a judge within the 24 hours. And the Hillsborough Public Defender's Office has attorneys there who will meet with you to get your bond factors. But one of the things they also do is they ask if you're a vet. And if you are, they have a veterans coordinator that's at the Public Defender's Office. It used to be Jay Gonzalez, who's a fellow Navy guy, and I'd give him hell for it. But he would go immediately out to the jail if they stayed in the jail and go visit with them, see if they qualify for vet court. If they don't at that moment, he would also start the process to get their VA benefits if they qualify. So I will say Hillsborough Public Defender's Office, and again, I worked at other public defender's office, does a phenomenal job to make sure exactly what you're saying, Daryl, that they know they have these services available to them, to the point that they have a vet working at their office who does all of that for them.
And Daryl, if I may just build upon what Joshua said, Sanjay Brooks, United States Navy, retired. She's taken over that position. And I mentioned earlier before Josh came on about Ms. Holt's commitment as well as Ms. Lopez. So within their offices, they are educating their fellow assistant public defenders, and on the state side, their fellow assistant state attorneys. So when these individuals are coming through, if they're not being caught, if the inquiry of whether or not they're a veteran isn't caught from the sheriff's office, then at arraignment, the public defender's office and the state attorney's office are very mindful of those inquiries of whether or not they're an individual has prior military service, and our judiciary. So I help educate our fellow judges that if there is a service member that's appearing in front of you, please let the defense know, let the state know, so they can put together a packet for consideration.
Okay. We are live still on Facebook, and if you're out there, you want to chime in on this conversation, please call 727-214-4930, Florida You Judge, as we're talking to Judge Scionti, which is the Veterans Treatment Court judge, and he is unraveling a whole lot of information here today. Judge Scionti, one day you're going to end up leaving that bench from that space, and I heard some questions the other day that said something to the effect of, I think we got an election coming up for judges, and it stated you want to know who's on the bench. So if you'll be a little bit vulnerable with us, tell us about, I got 7 kids, 14 dogs. Tell us something about you that makes us attached to you as a character, as the character of the person who we got sitting on the bench. So in the future, we know who we're dealing with.
Well, I've always had a servant's heart. Even when I was a little kid in the Cub Scouts and the Boy Scouts, just wanting to, explore life and learn as much as I could and be a problem solver. So when I was a young person, I always liked trying to solve problems for folks. And it just kind of drew me into the legal profession. It drew me into the military. just a lover of life and of people, and trying to, do the best I can with the life that I have is just what gives purpose to my life. So I couldn't see myself doing anything other than being a problem-solving judge. The question was asked earlier, beyond just being a judge, what else do you do? I certainly enjoy, spending, quality time with my family. I come from a large Italian family.
See, I knew it. I knew it. I knew it.
So cooking, I'm not a great cook, but I like to cook. Not too surprising. A good spaghetti sauce, a good crab enchilada is what I've carried on from being a kid watching my father cook. But just giving purpose to life when it's all said and done. And I know we probably have our own experiences, but after Iraq and after Afghanistan and losing many of my buddies, it really makes you reflect upon life and just making the most of your life because you have it to live and to give. So this is a labor of love for me. Serving in the military and helping build those leaders of tomorrow as I kind of transition my way out, and being here in court. Not just in Veterans Treatment Court, but I oversee mental health courts and other addiction-related courts, and trying to give folks hope for tomorrow. Make sure they're happy, they're healthy, and trying to provide them some hope. So,
Daryl, so Judge Scionti was a little coy, and I don't like for him. But the first thing is, those of us that are not military, who have not been in the reserve, will never realize how hard it is to make colonel in the U.S. Army Reserve. There's only a few slots out there. I retired after 29 years as a major, and Judge Scionti's made it all the way up to colonel. And the reason why is you have to look at his military history. As he said, multiple tours into Iraq and Afghanistan. He actually, Judge Scionti, we'll have to speak about it. You worked at Independence, Missouri, and I think we were probably there at the same time. I was probably a young lieutenant at the time in law school. While you were at Independence, Missouri, I was at University of Kansas, and my reserve unit was at Independence, Missouri. So that's crazy. He has the Bronze Star Medal. Not too many people get that, right? The Defense Meritorious Service Medal. Again, Joint Service Commendation Medal, Iraq Campaign Medal, Afghanistan Campaign Medal, President Unit Citation, and I'm sure a wealth of AAMs, ARCOMs, and all the alike. But he also worked at the U.S. Department of Defense, Florida House of Representatives. So a very fulfilling career. Also assistant state attorney and assistant statewide prosecutor. So it's just amazing as an attorney and as a military service member, the amount of time to have to dedicate to both of those jobs is no light thing. And to be able to make it up all the way up to colonel. And I don't know how much longer he plans to stay in, but if he does stay in any longer, that will soon be General Scionti as well.
And that's good that you painted that picture, because a lot of people don't realize the magnet, how hard it is as a reservist to be actually doing a full-time job and doing this reserve thing on a part-time basis. Because I work in both capacities. So right. I salute you.
So the more rank you make, it's no longer part-time. That was what I was struggling with. Right. As a major, a field grade officer, it wasn't just a 1 weekend a month. Your weekend was 5 days, 4 days of the weekend. Your summertime, that's supposed to be 2 weeks, turns into 30, 60, 90 days because you have all this rank. So it is a daunting task that he is doing, and I'm always proud to see him there doing
it. Josh, I'm speechless. Those are very humbling remarks. I try to make it more about my veterans. We all hold a very special place in our hearts for those who are courageous enough, like you two gentlemen and so many others, Stephanie's husband, who have raised the right hand, who are willing to put their life on their line for their brother and sister. And that's a humbling, because not many people are willing to do that. And, somebody famous once said, it takes a village. And so we all work together. We all bring our experiences. We all bring our compassion. We all bring, our individual strengths to try to help these veterans who are just, who are struggling. And I'm just so proud to work with this community. And we're so lucky that we have a community that is so committed to supporting our veteran community. And I'm just thankful to be a part of it, just a small part of it. And I couldn't see myself doing anything else but this. This is what gives me purpose. I alluded to it earlier. You don't come back from combat the same person that you deploy as the same person as it was when you deployed. You leave a little bit of yourself in Iraq or Afghanistan, and you bring some of that trauma back. And I'm not afraid to acknowledge, I was broken. And what was my solution? I volunteered to go back.
Yes.
Came back.
Yes.
And I was still, and I volunteered to go again. Right? I mean, we can lie. Yes. We all have that experience, and it's very difficult. So to have a judge, and I've been doing it now for 7 years, and I hope to do it for 17 more years. But to be able to appreciate those unique struggles that veterans are experiencing, and be able to talk about it. I share my story so that a veteran feels comfortable. It's like, well, if the judge is willing to share his struggles, and that's why it's a labor of love, because, it's Colonel Reyes and I, we served in Iraq at the same time. He was under 101st Airborne, and I was a 3rd Infantry in 2003 during the initial invasion. We didn't know each other.
I was there too.
Yeah, right.
First Army Division.
There you go. And we were all there together, didn't know each other, and fighting the enemy, foreign enemy. And yet we find ourselves back in this community, working together, fighting an enemy that's within. So it's that bond that Josh and I will always have. Daryl and I will always have. Lieutenant Colonel Pointer and I will always have. And whether we're strangers, but just because we don't know one another, but we find ourselves the common ground is our service and our commitment to this country and the struggles and sacrifices we've made. And that's what makes Veterans Treatment Court so special and so unique, and why, I need it. Well, I need Veterans Treatment Court for me.
Right.
You almost make me want to go to court.
I wish you would take Josh. I think Josh was the one that mentioned it, but I would wish you'd take us up on the offer. Just come in. I'll sit you right up here. You can observe and just take it all in.
I am most definitely going to make that.
Let me know, Daryl. I'll come with you.
Yes.
Let me know,
because I like to be able to share. This. I think this. I mean, this. We missed the mark on last week. We had a phenomenal interview last week on Veterans Day, but this is so timely to share this with the community and those who. I mean, you're unpacking so much, and I really appreciated your vulnerability, and I even just to see and hear you and your character and speak the way you are, that makes a major difference when you're sitting. First and foremost, no one wants to go to court. But when you're sitting in a courtroom with someone who has been as vulnerable, someone who can share and connect with the emotion aspect of that situation, man, that makes a major difference.
Remember, it does. And that's why encouraging honesty and building trust, and it starts with the judge, because I set the tone. And so if I'm as genuine as we are in trying to connect with these veterans, it starts with me and trying to connect with these veterans and let him or her know that we're here with you. Truly bringing love and support and compassion for what they're struggling with, patience, because they may relapse, there's no fear. I'm not going to put them in jail. I'm not going to punish them because they've relapsed and because they're struggling. We're just going to create that therapeutic environment and encourage them to re-engage. Right, Josh? That's what we do.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, and it's working. We are the most successful court in Hillsborough County when it comes to a low recidivism rate, reducing homelessness, reducing suicide rates, reducing the tax burden on our community with incarcerations, whether it be in jail or in Florida State Prison, because we just don't do that. Our graduation rates, we've graduated now, and this is my 7th year, going into the 8th year, over 1,000 veterans we've graduated from our program. As I pointed out earlier, some of those graduates are actual mentors in our program. And this is just a wonderful model that, of course, we are trying to replicate across the state and the country.
Awesome. Well, Stephanie, you want to bring us to a humble ending?
Well, I think Judge Scionti has very succinctly covered what Veterans Treatment Court means in our county, and it is by far, probably head and shoulders over everybody else because of him and Colonel Reyes and the other senior mentors who are working to make it a uniform system. And we really do appreciate you spending time with us today. And Josh, I'm so glad that you read off all the accolades for Judge Scionti, because it's really important that people know where you come from.
Right.
And as I stated earlier in the interview, one of the hardest groups when you go out as a citizen to vote for is the judges, because
nobody
knows them and nobody knows anything about them. So I think today Judge Scionti has really shown his true personality, and I think it bodes well for both our veterans and our Veterans Treatment Court, but our citizens who are not participating in that process, to see what kind of person he is both in and out of the courtroom. And we really do appreciate you coming to speak with us today.
Well, if I may, or go ahead, Hayden.
You're muted. No?
Okay. I just got some brand new equipment. I apologize for the beginning. There's some choppy audio. We owe you another broadcast in the future. Hopefully you come back again and again to keep the community updated as to Veterans Court. But Scionti, Judge Scionti, are we saying that right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so Josh, your friend, he is having an event. Are you aware of that, Bradshaw? Maybe I connected you. Deuce Bradshaw, is that your friend?
Oh yes. We worked at the public defender's office together. Yes.
Okay, so
that's him. Oh my God. I didn't realize it because he's not MMA in my mind at all. Wow. Okay, I gotta call him.
Okay, so he is. I wanted to plug this again right before we wrap up. They are having an event, and it's for a good cause, for a toy drive. They're gonna box.
Here.
It's a boxing exhibition, and so it's gonna be held December 9th at Signature Punch Training Center, 2315 East 3rd Avenue, Tampa, Florida. Doors open at 7:30. I wanted to plug that again, and it is being sponsored by a competitor.
And for the record,
I'll go ahead and I'll plug it anyways. It doesn't matter. I love Dina Sheridan. She's part of the Basiglio Sheridan law firm, and Josh is an amazing human, and so I support them in the good things that they do as lawyers and in the community events. I just wanted to, anyway. So I just wanted to see it's. Oh, geez. Let me get the Okay, it's being sponsored by Tampa Basic. And
so Sheridan's a lawyer too?
Yes, and Signature Punch. I believe that's maybe a boxing business where they train.
Right.
Basiglio Sheridan and Shobe are the sponsors.
Does that mean they're both going to run for Senate? Because that's the new thing in the Senate now.
Oh, wow. I saw that. Yeah.
I just want y'all to know I'm not judging this boxing event. So this is separate and apart. I wish them both very, the best, but I'm not judging that. So
But you know what? Look, I was thinking about it because Attorney Bradshaw asked if for Florida Judge to promo, and we're happy to do that. We're happy to promo any good community events. I was thinking about it in connection with last week. You all, Stephanie and Daryl interviewed, had a conversation in subsequent to the shootings in Ybor. That's a good thing that maybe young people can be stirred to, right?
Yeah.
Boxing. Okay, it was, you all did great, so informative. I had the pleasure and opportunity to bring on Judge Scionti. Am I saying that right?
That's Shanti. Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
yes, you are.
I had the ability to have him on during the pandemic. We went on live, and he's an amazing judge, amazing human being. The community, Hillsborough County, is so fortunate to have this gentleman
Yes.
as their judge to preside over this court. And so I hope that, as long as you remain willing to serve in that capacity, and it sounds like you are, you should, we're benefited by your service. And thank you for your service, you, Joshua Montero, and Daryl. We thank you for your service. Any last words before we sign off, Judge Scionti?
Well, I want to thank you, Haiti, and Stephanie, and Daryl, and Josh for just making a special morning for me. You invited me on the program. It was an honor to share the conversation with Josh and with Daryl and Stephanie and yourself. This is, bringing greater awareness to mental health issues in our criminal justice system that have for so many years been swept under the rug. Substance use disorders, bringing greater attention to that and letting your audience know that we are here fighting to help folks, not incarcerate, but to help them because they're struggling with mental health and substance use disorders, particularly for our veterans. I want to thank all of y'all because not many people know or even would take time to put it out to the community. And there are veterans all over our community that are struggling. And as a fellow veteran and as the VTC judge, I've walked in their boots. Josh, Daryl, myself, and so many others. And I just want your listeners to know, and if there's a veteran that's out there that's listening, and if you're struggling, please call the Veterans Crisis Line, okay? Especially during this time, during the holiday time. We're here. We stand ready to help. The Veterans Crisis Line, if you don't know the number, I know it. It's 800-273-8255. Again, 800-273-8255. If you are struggling, there are folks like me. There are folks in this community that love you, that care for you, and just want to be a helping hand. We live in a wonderful community. And I just wanted to, even though it's not Veterans Day, we treat veterans like every day is special in our courtroom. And to all of us as Americans, I hope you all remember with a thankful heart of all the many that have served and that are still serving. And may we never take their sacrifices for granted. So God bless you all. And thank you again.
And so, again, the crisis line for veterans to call, especially as Judge Scionti has indicated that the holidays, not only for veterans, but especially probably for veterans, it could be a hard time. And so if you want to reach out and you're having a crisis, veterans, you can call the 800-273-8255. I repeat, crisis line, hotline is 800-273-8255. And I did want to say good morning to Dee Jones. She commented and wanted to thank the veterans for all that the veterans do. We all, certainly non-veterans, join that sentiment. Thank you, Dee Jones. Good morning. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for commenting on today's broadcast. Okay, well, with that, I am so very thankful for Daryl Heisch and Stephanie Pointer, who have joined the Florida Judge team to host good programming, good broadcast to inform the community. Thank you again, Judge Scionti, for coming on. Josh, you know how I feel about you. I think you're an amazing attorney and very community involved. Thank you for you too. They're thankful for you too. Everyone have a happy Thanksgiving this coming week. Rest. Not all is work. We're like working all the time. Let's take some time to rest and spend some time with family and have good food, Italian, Cuban food.
We'll see you in 2.
Yeah. Well,
See you in
okay.
2 weeks.
So, yes, we will see you in about 2 weeks. Yes, ma'am. Everyone have
All
a
right.
great rest of
Happy
the day
Thanksgiving.
and weekend.
All right. Thank you all.